Un, dos, tres, trois. It's the Roller with the Barrel Vintage Baseball Podcast, talking to vintage baseball players from coast to coast, border to border. We're back. Man, I've been doing this a long time. Season 5? 4? 5.
Five.
5. I'm over 50 now. Can't you tell? So some things, the more things change, the more they stay the same. As some people noted in a social media post, Rudy Frias no longer with the show. And you would say Rudy Frias was on the show? Yeah, because they missed most of the last year. Anyway, those weren't planned misses. These are planned misses as Rudy, in his youth, was bitten by the acting bug. You may know him as being the Spanish face of Bed Bath & Beyond or some crazy Taco Bell ad that never went anywhere, but I shared that picture. Anyway, Rudy went on to star in many plays and such, and he went to New York chasing that dream a long time ago and actually performed on stages. And you know what? I don't really know where it went. But you can look up Rudy Frias on IMDb and see how that went. And then life happened. And wife and kids, and everybody who has kids knows that's what comes first. So the acting went away. I believe he actually met his wife through the acting. And then something happened this off season where somebody needed an actor for a role, and they contacted Mr. Swampbox, and he decided to do it. So he now rehearses most of his free time and parenting the other time. So he has no time for this nonsense. Probably does have time for the other 3 or 4 podcasts he does, but not this one. And he will be back sometime later in the season, but not anytime soon. Maybe second half of the season we're shooting for, but we will see. So something else you knew, but now is even more official than ever, is last season Jeff Kozlowski from the Greenfield Village La-Di-Da's, Cougar as you know him, joined the show as an alternate host last year to fill in for all of Rudy's activities. And then this season, he is now the permanent co-host. So when we're doing a show, it's going to be Jeff Kozlowski, and it's going to also be Mike Feeney. So Mike Feeney's not here for this episode, but Mike Feeney, the captain of the Canton, Michigan Cornshuckers, also a full-time host of the show. So we will be having a 3-man booth or a 2-man booth, but rarely will you have to deal with a 1-man booth, which isn't fun for you. I know that because that 1 man is me. Okay. So welcoming to the show, the newest full-time member. He gets no benefit out of this. Jeff Cougar Kozlowski. Jeff, thanks for showing up and being part of the show in season 5.
Hey man, I'm happy to be here. I have plenty of time for this nonsense, so I'm happy to be part of the family once again. And as is our roving reporter Jonathan McLean. He is also ecstatic and wrote up a special report for today. So,
are we getting a live Jonathan McLean?
Yeah, as soon as I can find him, I think he's around here somewhere.
All right, we'll do that later. Jonathan McLean, for our guests that we're about to introduce, just so they have some. What the hell is that? We've never heard this show before in our lives. It's our tribute to John McClane and the movie Die Hard, but it's a vintage baseball. It's almost like a vintage baseball version of an ESPN Sports Center breaking news kind of. I don't know, a little something. Anyway, we are going to the dry heat of Arizona in episode 1 of season 5. They love us in Arizona. I don't know how. We are big in Arizona and France. Somebody explain it to me. And we are talking to the Higley Haymakers tonight. We're talking to Patrick Murphy and Sam Allen. How you guys doing?
Doing great out here.
Yeah, doing awesome.
And experience will tell me to not ask questions that requires both of you to answer at the same time. It's very awkward. So we will address people specifically. We have Patrick the Mayor Murphy. We have Sam Seabiscuit Allen. Oh my God. There's going to be a story about Seabiscuit, but we'll get to it later. Let's start with Patrick. You are the captain of the Higley Haymakers. Tell us, Patrick, how you came across vintage baseball, why you started the club, and how you started the club.
Sure. So I came across vintage baseball, I believe it was about 2017. The town that I grew up in southeast corner of Arizona, we have a big baseball festival there every year, vintage baseball, and this April will actually be the 13th anniversary of that baseball festival. So they've been doing it for a while. I was in town and decided to swing by and just watch what it was going on. Kind of got introduced to it in general there, among this amazing ballpark, everything else. So got introduced to it there, got to check it out. They needed a player, so I jumped out and started playing with a couple other buddies. And from there, the bug had bit me. So I actually joined the Bisbee squad at that point, played with them for a couple seasons. As we progressed into COVID really hit the Arizona League hard. We had tons of participation, tons of teams, and coming out of COVID in 2021 just really devastated us. So I played with them again in 2021 and 22. I decided, because I actually live up in the Phoenix area, which is nowhere near Bisbee for those who know the geography of Arizona. It's about 3.5 hours away. And I decided, since Bisbee seems to be doing just fine, I'm going to start my own team, a new one up here in the Valley, since we need new teams. And so I got together with a couple players who had been with me playing in general, and some people from other teams who were willing to, try this new thing. And one of them was Sam here with us. And so we, like any good thing, we all sat down at a bar and decided to put together a team, put together a name. The Higley is a town in the Valley. It's actually non-existent anymore, but it's where Gilbert, Arizona is now. So that's why I call myself the mayor of a town that doesn't exist. So kind of fun. But we end up creating what we call the Higley Haymakers. And, it's also a haymaking area of Arizona. So a couple years later, here we are on a podcast.
Sam, tell me when you first came across vintage baseball and what you thought about it the first time it hit your eyes.
Yeah, so I came across it, funny enough, because my wife got us a birthday trip to Bisbee, the town that Patrick grew up in. And we were going down just for a weekend, and I was researching things to do in Bisbee. I knew the famous Copper Queen mine, but I knew nothing else, what we were supposed to do down there. So I discovered a place called Warren Ballpark that he mentioned, one of the oldest ballparks in the state, I guess the oldest in the state. And I was like, this is really cool. I'm a big baseball history guy. And I stumble upon the website and I see all these pictures of these guys and, 19th century, outfits, and they're playing with no gloves. And I'm like, what is this craziness? And it was a link to the league page. And this was, again, right after COVID. So this is summer of 2020. And I emailed a few clubs and only got one response from a club. And they said, hey, come out to a practice. I think it was like a few months later in September, October. Showed up, loved it. Loved the feel of the ball hitting your hand really, hard with no glove on. And just loved the freedom. It's almost like, I don't know, I loved the freedom it gave me to kind of go after balls that I wouldn't be able to go after in other forms of baseball. So loved it.
Cougar.
Can you talk more to that, Sam? Like I just wrote that down. That just sounds so profound that you loved the freedom of that. Because most normal people, when you take a glove off of them, will all of a sudden think of, as an outfielder, that short fly ball. You want to pull up on it and keep it in front of you.
Exactly.
It's a rare breed of people that sees something like that and says, I'm going. Could you talk more to what that freedom means?
Yeah, I mean, it was from the first practice to the first game, I realized I could go get balls that, I could never get in slow pitch or in a baseball league, whether it's a one hopper in the foul territory. I just loved laying out for balls in the outfield. That was where I first started playing, was in the outfield, and then when I kind of gradually towards the infield as well, that freedom as well was, I love just going after any ball.
So can you answer for us and for those that are listening? Tell us about the ground rules, what years you guys play with. If we were to come out to your neck of the woods, what kind of rules or things would we see?
Sure, we do. Well, we kind of call ourselves a modified 1861-esque rule. We actually put together a travel team this past summer and went to both Colorado, and we're both also in the Ohio Cup. And so from there, we're able to learn a little more about rules and how it's played. Like, we don't do stealing in Arizona in general, mostly because a lot of our catchers are older guys. And so, a ball will bounce and, you get on first, all of a sudden the young guys are immediately on third. So we didn't do that. But learning how they did that in Ohio was really interesting, kind of taking those, the way it should be done. So we play a modified version. Some things are modified in the aspect of, we do leadoffs, obviously. We're not tethered to the base. So an array of modified versions, but we're closest to about the 1861 rules, if you will.
So when you guys hit the Ohio Cup, I'll start with you, Patrick. How big of a culture shock was it for you, thinking that you were playing this niche sport that not many people do, not many people know about, and then you travel over to Ohio? How different was it for you?
There were some aspects that were very different. Uniqueness, obviously, Muffin Meadow, where you have this apple tree in the left field, which is just fun and very interesting. And so it was definitely a culture shock in sense of like that aspect, the cool town that's all around the Ohio Village, which is just really fun to be part of. And obviously tons and tons of teams. There's so many teams. We played so many different, even small variations of rules. We played one team and you had to be tethered to the base. We played another team, you didn't have to be tethered to the base. So it was really interesting to see it's so different. But at the same time, back here in Arizona, even though it's, relatively new, relatively small, when we go down and have our Bisbee tournament this past April, when we had we call it Bisbee Festival, was our 12th annual Copper City Classic. And there was 300 people there at one point. So crowd sizes, it's obviously different because it's in a stadium and everything, but we bring out quite a bit of fans out here, which is an interesting balance.
Sam, let me
Tell me
ask you
about-
this. Let me ask Sam a question, and then you got a question for each of them. Cougar, you ready? Okay. Sam, BYU has the largest collegiate ballroom dance program in the world. Tell us your feelings on that.
Oh, you took my question.
No way. I don't know. I cannot make a comment on the ballroom program. Mormons love to dance, I guess. Ballroom dance. I don't know.
Excuse me,
They have a massive.
love to dance?
I know they have a massive ballroom. I've been in the ballroom. It's gigantic, but I've never done it myself. So I don't know. I wasn't with that crowd, unfortunately.
The
Oh, man.
BYU collegiate ballroom program has performed in 36 foreign countries since its inception
Wow.
in the
There you go.
1970s, and I think you should know about that, Sam.
There you go. The more you know.
Sam, did you make the trip to Ohio?
No, but I did make the trip to Colorado. I played about an inning of baseball, and then went up for a ball in left center, and came down my ankle sideways and spent the rest of the trip on the sideline. So no, it was black and blue, terrible. It took me about 6 months to fully recover. So never thought I'd get an injury playing vintage baseball. Not that injury, at least, not a broken finger, but a super sprained ankle.
You didn't play any games before that? That was the first inning of the first game?
It was top of the second. I think it was top of the second. I had one at bat, popped up to second, just a total disappointment of a trip. So, looking to come back this year and rebound.
Did you scorekeep or did you lose and leave? Did you decide to leave?
No, I didn't. I stuck around. I was alone in an Airbnb most of the time, just sitting on a bed, trying to stay positive because I had to drive, the 20 hours home. with a sprained ankle. I did watch the rest of the games that our Arizona guys are playing in on crutches. So just kind of pulled up to the dugout or on the grandstand and watched the rest of the games. So I did scorekeep one game. One game I did with a guy named Bucky out there.
I think it needs to be known that this was the game we played against the Corn Shockers of Canada.
Yeah.
They were giving us a good walloping, and all of a sudden Sam gets injured and has to leave the game. Like, all right.
Typical corn shucker baseball.
Yeah.
I've never seen that exit velo. Yeah, that was crazy.
You see them play and you're like, oh, we have to match that intensity and we have to run all over the place, and you couldn't do it.
Yep.
You failed, Sam.
Honestly.
Cougar, your questions.
So getting back to the Copper City Classic, if you go back in the Roller Out the Barrel archives, there's a few episodes with a couple of the guys. I think I watched. I've listened to Sauce's conversation. I rolls all around. Yeah, that sounds about right.
We know Sauce. Remember, he plays a shortstop between me playing third and Sam playing first. So we're right in between them all day long.
I don't know why you guys are rolling your eyes. Why are you guys rolling your eyes? Some of my favorite interviews.
Sauce is one of the best people on the planet. We
love
him.
Character. We love him.
But anyway, going back to that Copper City Classic here, you're talking about playing in front of crowds. What is the crowd of an average game and versus Copper City Classic? And do you, as ball players, I guess Patrick, I'll start with you. Do you guys start, or do you find that you play differently when you have a big crowd versus, say, one where it's just wives and families?
Yeah, it's interesting, especially you talk about the big crowd. Bisbee is obviously our biggest crowd by far. It's a big draw. I'm actually, not to take us a little further out, but I'm actually the president of the nonprofit that runs that ballpark now and runs the event. So, we've already had people buying tickets for this event. So it's a big draw. So when you talk about playing in front of them, I don't think I played much different, but it's definitely, you don't realize how many people are there until you miss a play or make a good play and then you just hear the crowd. Or the favorite is when you're playing somebody like the women team and you get them out and the whole crowd just boos you. So it's fun. It's definitely unique. But our average crowd, I'd say it really varies. There's time where we have 20 people out there. We played in a small old military fort out in Yuma, which is right along the California border, last spring, and there was people everywhere. Like they lined the field, like the base pass with people, and so you'd hit a hard line drive down third base line and hit somebody. It was insane. So it just depends on how many groups we get, but it's a fun draw. But I love it.
Cougar, your question for Sam?
Yeah, Sam, same thing. Tell me about crowd reactions, crowd responses, maybe even like to a little bit of extent, that when you make a play and the crowd just lets you know, like, wow, that was impressive. Like, give me some crowd feedback.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could bottle that up and and drink it later. No, it's the best feeling ever when you make a good play in front of that crowd. I'm humble to admit I get nervous. It's a crowd, and going up to home plate, and seeing that ball come in, it's slow, nice and slow, but it seems a lot more pressure just because of the crowd. But it's why I play the game. I look forward to April every year to play in Bisbee. I tell everybody, get to Bisbee and you'll see why we play this game. It's electric. So, whether it's we get a great play or even if you make a bad play, it's fun the whole time.
Patrick, I got a 2-part question for you here. Part number 1. Have you been by the house where Jodi Arias killed her boyfriend?
Oh, you took my question.
I have not, and I don't even know where that is, to be honest with you.
Well, I believe it's off the market.
I have no idea.
For sale. Well, you guys look into that. Part number 2. Patrick, tell us about your relationship with your bat. What are you using?
Ooh.
What's your history of finding that bat?
So I actually, when I was in Bisbee, when I was playing for Bisbee, this is actually an interesting story in itself. So there's a guy, you guys may have seen him before. His name is Brian. He owns a company called Smacker, who makes what the best bats I've ever seen, in my personal opinion. And he had one sitting there on the rack a couple years ago, and I saw it. It's called the Stinger. It was called. It's black and yellow, and this is when I played for Bisbee, and I was a black and white team. It's like black and yellow, and it was 36 inches long, which is obviously something you don't really use in fast pitch, which is different. So I got that thing. It even coming, like, as I was coming out to bat one of the times in Bisbee, I heard somebody in the crowd say, "Where'd you get that bat from?" And just the comments were great about it already. So I was like, this is my bat. I like this. And so it throws it back to a couple things. Is one, Bisbee, the place we were at, and where I grew up, used to have a minor league team that was for the Cubs and the Reds. That was called the Bisbee Bees, and they had those colors. And so that black and yellow stripe on there, the bat's called the Stinger. I'm like, this is just it. And so it's just been my go-to ever since. I will say, since I've got that bat, I think I've bought about 10 other bats from him. I'm a bat junkie. I have just a wall of bats, a mix of obviously vintage bats of every little array and change. And then I played men's league fast pitch baseball, and I have a couple pro bats. So to say I don't have an array of bats is an understatement.
Sam, same question about your relationship with the bat you use.
Yeah, I think I have bat ADHD. I switch every at bat, so I'm constantly trying to stick with the same stick the rest of the whole day. But I only have 3 all smacker bats. We go down to the shop. It's here in Queen Creek, Arizona, and I love it because you get to customize completely what you want: wood, feel, balance, the whole thing. But yeah, I just roll with the 33. It's a pretty skinny barrel, but there's a lot of sweet spot. So yeah, I love a good end loaded bat is my pick.
Sam, Jim McMahon, quarterback of Brigham Young,
Yeah.
was a full-time starter his last 2 years, did quite well, put up big numbers, but also was the punter for his first 2 years. What do you think about Jim McMahon's punting at Brigham Young?
I'm not gonna lie, that's way before my time. I'm not gonna I know about John Beck, Max Hall, and those guys. That's about where I start. So yeah, no, that's where I don't go back that far, unfortunately.
Did you want to talk about John Beck's career on the Miami Dolphins?
Pretty forgettable. Is that what it was?
Yeah, we're not going to talk about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Cougar, your question.
So I was at a I was at a like a teaching seminar, like a national conference, and I was with some guys from Minnesota, and they were talking about meeting some people from Arizona, and the guys from Minnesota were like, "Oh yeah, and they out there it's about 110 degrees, they say, but it's a dry heat." And the other guy goes, "Yeah, so's an oven." So thinking about that, could you say on the record, like, when is your schedule and times, locales, like the logistics of what a season of yours looks like?
Yeah. I will say, we do play out here in Arizona, but when I was in Ohio for the Ohio Cup, I've never sweat that much in my life. My poor little short brimmed hat is
so sweaty.
It's just destroyed from me playing. And so, the heat's here is bad, but man. So our season in general is more of a winter season simply because, it's like 75 degrees right now. So we try to play in general from October to April. April being the big Bisbee tournament, the first weekend of April is kind of where it all ends for us. It's our C'est la vie, if you will. And so where we call it. But we usually try to play, obviously we have teams from across the state. And what we do is we try to every month at least get together and do one big round robin, a bunch of games, wherever it could be. For example, in 2 weeks or a week and a half on the 24th, the Haymakers are actually hosting. We're dubbing it ourselves the Haymaker Festival. So we actually have a couple guys from Michigan that I met when I was in the Ohio Cup who are going to come out here and play with us. So it's kind of fun. So, we travel across the state. In a couple weeks, we're going to go to a town called Globe, which is about an hour and a half east of here, up in the mountains, where it actually snowed earlier this week. Or it's Monday, so yesterday. And so, try to incorporate these small towns and kind of show us fun things, especially these old towns that used to have minor league baseball and have really cool old ballparks. So that's kind of the gist of it.
So, Sam, kind of in a similar vein, Patrick's talking about travel and places that they've gone and seen. You mentioned Ohio Cup. Tell me about the field or certain fields that have particular landmarks, or is every field you play at just like so perfectly manicured that every hop is true and every bounce is natural? Or do you have a thing that has a tree in the middle of the outfield?
We do have a weird field we played last year, and Patrick can expound more on it if I miss anything. But yeah, in Yuma, that town in Southwest Arizona near California, we played at that fort last year. And when I showed up, my jaw dropped because there's about Patrick, what would you say, 40 foot, 30 foot?
The incline?
Hillside. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like the second baseman was about 15 to 20 feet below the center fielder.
Yeah, and the right field. So
yeah,
an incredible hill between second and right field that was provided lots of funny moments. That's probably our weirdest field, and sadly, we're not going to play there this year. But we do have Warren Ballpark is the Bisbee ballpark. There are funny quirks about that field too, with the infield grass and things like that. So we love finding out those quirks, especially in the outfield. Is it a dry day? Is it a wet day? We're gonna get big hops, little hops, things like that. It's my favorite.
Patrick, two-part question. Part number one. In the town of Sierra Vista, are you familiar with Sierra Vista?
Very familiar. It was the nearest Walmart from where I grew up.
Sierra Vista is the location of the very first McDonald's drive-through in the country. Patrick, when you go to McDonald's and you go through the drive-through, what is your usual order?
All right, so I have two options, but it usually if I'm driving, seems to be my thing, is I always get a quarter pounder with cheese, plain because I don't want to make a mess, and usually large size, and I get a Diet Coke because balance, keep it reasonable.
Sure. Part number two. When you were young, and this is the favorite question that I ask people on the podcast, and this is fair for Sam as he gets to sit back and think about the answer to this question as I ask you. When you're young and you're playing baseball and you can't find 17 friends to play a full baseball game with, it's impossible. Nobody has 17 friends. You're just trying to round up and form something that looks as close to baseball as possible. What are you playing on? How many people are you playing with? And what are the rules are you changing to just get some baseball in?
All right. Conveniently, I have quite an answer for this. So, growing up in Bisbee, obviously, is a small town. There was no lights, and we're in Arizona. So, if you want to go play in July, probably going to wait till the sun goes down. So, we would play we called tennis court baseball. It was in a tennis court because there's two tennis courts side by side. And if you turned them kind of at a diamond shape, you almost have a baseball field right there with fences and everything. And one of the fences was a wall. So, we had our own green monster. It was amazing. So what we did was we take a wiffle ball and you have to hit it on one bounce. So you throw it, it bounces once, and then you can hit it. And we used foam baseball bats. And so the rules were you could hit somebody with the ball to get them out as long as they're on the base. First base was basically a normal corner of two tennis courts. Second base was actually the net, the corner of the net between the two nets. And then to go to third, you could actually run on either side of the net of your choosing and then come back to home. The other rule was you had if you bat twice the same inning, you have to bat the other hand. So your weak hand compared to your strong hand. So you have to bat left-handed. Home runs, you could actually go out of the fence and grab them as long as they're still in the air, and it'd be an out still. So kind of a goofy, we call tennis court baseball. In fact, we always the tennis courts are probably 500 yards from where we played in the Warren Ballpark. And we're always like, maybe we should play a tennis court baseball game tonight with all these people. And to your point about the amount of people, we only needed 3 people per team, but you didn't want to get more than about 6 because otherwise it was just a mess.
Sure. Sam, same question about baseball in the beginning for you?
Yeah, I think I've had a lot of moments in my life. LDS churches or Mormon churches, they have really nice basketball gyms in the middle. At least here in Arizona. I don't know how they are in the Midwest. And we would play a lot of foam baseball in the basketball gyms, and they're usually either half court or full court. But the half courts were my favorite because it was kind of more of a square shape. But we would basically just play normal baseball with a foam ball, bounce it off the walls. There's basketball hoops you can throw it off of, just standard, 30-foot base paths. Nothing crazy, but we always played in the church gym for sure.
And Sam, describe to us and to all the listeners what the uniform, because you guys have really set yourselves apart with these uniforms. Sam, tell everybody, give them a good visual of what these uniforms look like.
I assume we're referring to the Haymaker uniform, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Oh, yes. I was part of the meeting, the planning meeting, and where we came up with our color scheme. It was black and yellow, black and gold. For the first 3 months of our existence, we had what I call the banana era, where we were wearing gold shirts with black pants, kind of a yellow. And when we showed up for the first game, everyone had an entirely different shade of whatever color it was. It was just, I look at pictures and I cringe still. That first day, we looked like a bunch of bananas out there. Now we're rocking the black top, black bottoms. Some of the guys rock the gold suspenders and bow ties. And then we wear our Stockbridge Sewing Works hats with our golden H on it. Some people wear high socks, some people don't. We wear gold socks under the pants. So yeah, it's a fun look, especially on a sunny day when there's no breeze and we're out there cooking in the outfield. So super fun.
Yeah. Who thought up the black in Arizona? What's the Patrick?
Yeah. Well,
What?
yeah. So originally, Sam referencing the 50 shades of yellow we called ourselves. I didn't know there was that many shades of yellow until you tell everyone to buy a yellow button-down shirt. My golly, there was a ton. But yeah, so the thought was, as I spoke about the Bisbee Bees earlier, they were a black and yellow team, and that was kind of what we went with. And we quickly realized that yellow tops are a horrific idea, and black was probably the better choice. In January, it's not so bad. When we play the 4th of July game down in Bisbee occasionally, it's horrible.
But at least you're not going with the wool, because that will kill people. Cougar.
Yeah, we have wool hats.
Well,
yeah.
You're up, Coug.
So, I want to come back to the tennis court baseball because, as reenactors, like as reenactors of the sport, while we could say we modify a few rules here and there and do this, like in a sense, 150, 160 years ago, they're doing the same thing. We've got all these different variants of the game that eventually evolves into what we know today in the modern sense of baseball. So thinking about that, Patrick, I'll start with you. You are MLB commissioner for a day. What's the one rule that you need to change? Using either vintage baseball or something like, what's the one thing that's got to get fixed?
Getting rid of the DH. This is where I know I'm a pure. That's why the one thing I'm a purist when it comes to is I don't like the DH. I like pitchers who rake. It's always been one of those things. Obviously, here in Arizona, we've had a couple good ones here on the major league team. We've had Micah Owens, we've had Zach Greinke. We had Madison Bumgarner, but I'm not going to talk about that. But to that, I like that pitchers have to hit. It's a two-thing sport.
Sam?
I must steal a page out of the Savannah Bananas book, Stealing First Base. I think that throwing that in there, some lefty speedsters, kind of, pitcher taking a break, take first. I don't know. I don't know how often it would affect the game, but just creating more freedom on the base path. I love chaos our D-backs team right now, that was their whole thing, is it was create chaos, and I'm all over that. Speed on the base path. So
pitchers don't have time to hit, because when you're a pitcher in the major leagues, that's a full-time job. You're doing stuff nonstop. Now, back in my youth, having no DH in both leagues would have been awesome. And they could have spent time hitting and everything, but they're behind the 8 ball now. They don't get the practice or anything, and 99% of the time they're just a strikeout. And especially now that bunting doesn't exist anymore, I don't understand what's going on with that. But I don't know if you could do it. I'm not saying I don't agree with you, Patrick. I'm just saying I don't think it could happen because of how they treat all these specialized positions in every sport now. There will never be another Deion Sanders, Bo Jackson, Brian Jordan. And I just don't think pitchers are going to hit ever again. I just don't see it happening.
No, I don't
And
either. Unfortunate.
Those are my 2 cents. Hey, are you guys familiar with Lake Havasu City?
Yep.
Lake Havasu
Yeah.
City in Arizona. All right. Which one of you two can tell me exactly the historical significance that I'm about to bring up of Lake Havasu?
that's Patrick.
The one, because it's a party town, so the non-Mormon will answer that question. I'm gonna guess the London Bridge.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Yes.
I did know that. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I've only been there one time in my life.
In 1968, the founder of the city bought the London Bridge, and they dismantled it. Oh, Jeff, you got to be loving this. Dismantled it and took it over to the town and reassembled it, and it goes over a stretch of the Colorado River, and it actually has Napoleon's lamppost on the bridge as you go across it. So we bought it for $2.46 million in 1968. So
and to put out in the middle of nowhere.
So it's out in the middle of nowhere. Is that where this city is in no man's land?
Yeah, it's basically between Phoenix and Las Vegas.
So there's a lot of dead bodies buried by it.
I would imagine.
We should.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we should go check out the grasslands on both sides of this bridge. There's probably the Arizona Mafia. Is there such a thing as that?
No.
That's a good, yeah.
Okay.
Don't talk about it.
Patrick, you guys are in mid-season right now. That just made everybody jealous. That listens and is sitting at home in the cold weather. How's the season going overall? How's it? And I also, Sam, I'm going to warn you ahead of time so you have something to think about. Your question is going to be about how's it been playing against the girls team for the last couple of seasons that go out there and they don't care. They don't care that they're playing a bunch of dudes. So I'm going to ask you to comment on that. But Patrick, how's the season going?
Season's going great. We are about halfway through our season. We played a couple games in October, but most of the season started in November. This is the first year we're really doing where we're keeping track of records, which is kind of fun. Last year, it was pretty obvious who the top 2 teams were, and we played a championship in Bisbee, which was amazing because it was the place that I grew up in. My bedroom window overlooked right field of Warren Ballpark, and we got to win our first championship there, which was amazing. This year, we're keeping records, and we are currently 5-0, kicking butt, rolling great. But all the teams are doing great. It's been a really fun, competitive season. We're getting a lot of interest out here in Arizona. Now, how come Sam gets to know what his question is ahead of time? Cheating.
Because that comes
I'm the
with
sidekick.
territory of being the captain. When you're the
Yeah.
captain, you have all the
All
answers.
right,
You know,
that's fine.
You off the top of your head, and when you're Sam, maybe you'd like a little heads up. So
That's fair.
Sam,
Yeah.
Sam, it's different out there in Arizona, and the difference is there are women's teams in certain spots around the country, and unfortunately, most of them have died off. Uh, well, there are some that still exist, but out in Arizona, you have a ladies club that participates in the same league, right, with all the boys, and they take it on the chin and don't complain about it, or they dish it out and don't. Well, maybe they do. When they play good and they get you out, is there celebrating going on, or are they just treating it like another play?
I mean, they're gamers. These ladies know how to play. I mean, you can tell, and there's about 500 of them. It's a massive. They always have. I feel like they have a standing roster of 18 people, 18 ladies that show up. But yeah, we haven't played them this season yet, but they're my favorite team to play because of the fun that they have playing. But that's not to be confused with their amount of competitiveness. They're very competitive. They love to give us a run for our money and make plays and just play ball. So they're probably my favorite team to play in the league because of that, because they can have a great time, but at the same time they're there to win. So we love playing the maidens. We love having them in our league.
Cougar.
all right. So winning championships. Okay. Patrick just brought up the idea of winning championships. I remember first world tournaments. That's our big tournament in Metro Detroit. It's the World Tournament of Baseball. And I won it, or when we won it in 2007. And I remember crying. I was like so happy about that. And my girlfriend, who is now my wife, said, "Are you crying about this?" And I kind
And
of
she
did the
still
old,
married you. She still
yeah,
married you.
and my emotional, instability got even worse now. So certain Disney movies I can't even watch now. But
Oh.
thinking about championships, and as important as the Copper City Classic is, um, you know, think of like I'm trying to like word this like with regard to like the gentlemanly play aspect of vintage baseball versus the doodliness of I gotta win. Like, how do you walk that line? Sam, I'll start with you to give the mayor a break.
Yeah, no, it was my second season playing in the league. So for me, it was an amazing achievement to have the team I'm on. I'm on my sophomore season win the championship. We played a very, very tough team in our championship. The Mesa Miners have kind of run this league for a while, and they're still very, very good, and it's still their league, I would say. And we hadn't beat them all year, and we played great at the right time. And the entire game, I was just like watching the scoreboard, just in disbelief that we were even able to have a lead on these guys because they had beaten us so many times. And when we finally got that last out, it was just a weight off my shoulders. Like, we didn't choke, we did this. This is, we deserve this win because we kind of pride ourselves, the haymakers, on our defense. We have some guys in the outfield that can run some balls down. And these miners who we were going up against, they can thump the ball. So we kind of won it on defense, and it was really great to play our style throughout the whole thing and win the championship. I was smiling all day. It was a great time.
Patrick?
Yeah, kind of to expound on that too. For me it was so magical because it was in this ballpark that I grew up overlooking, and just I played there and everything, and it was just magical for me. But also to your point of keeping it as a gentleman type game, obviously we don't be obnoxious about it. I mean, we probably were a little more than we should have been, but it was definitely magical in that aspect. But we wanted to make sure we give these guys, for the record, these guys had beaten us every time we played them the entire season. We used to joke we have a minor problem. The Miners can just beat us left and right. They when we first put this team together, we played the Miners, and I think they beat us like 20-1 or some ridiculous score. And every time we played them, the game got closer and closer as we got cohesive as a team and got, these guys got more experience of this weird vintage group. Because this is our first year in existence was last year. This is just our second year. And some of these guys have never even picked up a vintage baseball, let alone tried to figure it out. And so the more cohesive we got, the better we got, and just the tight knit group we became. We just got better and better and kept narrowing that gap with those minors and kept telling we're coming for you guys. And so then when we did finally pull it off, it was just that amazing achievement. And then, making sure, obviously, everybody knows we still respect and we still love them to death. They're some of the best guys out there altogether. But, when it comes to that gentleman aspect, you can't be too crazy about it. Don't want to celebrate too much in their face, but make sure, and the same thing with them. If they celebrate their wins, that's totally fine. We're all about it. So it's been a great time.
Cougar, is Jonathan McLean ready?
Let me check. Yes, he is ready.
Okay, so we're gonna give the guys a minute or two to catch their breaths. We're gonna have Jonathan McLean come in and do a sports report, and then we're gonna come back with Sam and Patrick, and we're gonna give them the old pepper. And I'm sure they have no idea what that is, but if you listen to the show over the last 4 years, those are just quick questions with quick answers. And we're actually going to have a winner between the two with these questions tonight. We'll see how that goes. But right now, it's time for Jonathan McLean.
This is your Roller Out the Barrel news break for Thursday, January 30th, 1868. I'm Jonathan McLean. Dateline, Brooklyn, New York. The Eagle and Empire baseball clubs played a game this past Tuesday. Yes, you heard me right. A game of baseball. In New York. In January. That said, we didn't get a report of a guy coming through with 8 reindeer. This was no ordinary game, as Tuesday's contest will be played on ice. 2 good 9s were present through some stormy weather, though some stormy weather chased away several of each team's best players, as well as most of the spectators. The Eagles scored 4 runs in the top of the first, helped in part by Mr. McGinn, who reached first on a drop third strike by the Empire catcher, Mr. Simmons. The Empire's pitcher would see karma repaid as he himself reached the first sack in the bottom of the inning on a similarly dropped third strike. In the second inning, after a second strikeout by Mr. Simmons, Mr. Nestler came to the rescue with not 1, but 2 clean home runs. Wilson and Morse would add clean home runs in the 4th inning to add to the Empire's lead. The game was scheduled to be concluded after 5 innings, but good feelings consented to a 6th. The Eagles added 2 runs, while the Empires, having already secured the win, put up 7 to bring the game to a conclusion. Mr. Klein of the Eckford Baseball Club acted very satisfactorily as the umpire, and the most friendly feeling was manifested throughout the match. Final score, Empires 33, Eagles 17. Today's news break is brought to you by Niblo's Garden and their production of White Fawn. We'll make your ladies blush, shock their moral sensibilities, and guarantee to have them questioning their reputation if they attend. I'm Jonathan McLean, and this has been your Roller Out the Barrel news break.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. Yippee-ki-yay. Father Christmas. Okay, as we bring back in Patrick and Sam. What I'm going to do here, guys, is I'm going to ask you some quick questions, quick answers. We'll go through as many as I got here, and then I'll decide who gave the best answers at the end. Are you gentlemen ready? We're going to go back and forth. We'll start with Mr. Murphy. He's the captain. That's how these things go, seniority basis. Patrick, what's your favorite Kool-Aid flavor?
Cherry.
Sam, best character on Scooby-Doo?
Definitely Scrappy Doo.
Patrick, if you had to eat one, would it be a bowl of crickets or a bowl of worms?
Bowl of crickets, absolutely. Worms, no thank you.
Sam, what is your favorite finger?
Oh, I'm a thumb guy for sure. Need that.
Patrick, the location of your best vacation.
Duluth, Minnesota.
Sam, your favorite coin.
Nickel. I like the thickness of it for sure.
Patrick, have you ever eaten a dog biscuit?
Yeah, sure have.
Sam, have you ever heard of Pong?
Yes, I have.
Patrick, what is a pet peeve?
Chewing loudly. Mouth open.
Sam, quickly morph two animals together to make one.
The liger.
Copied that.
Yeah.
Patrick,
Dang it, man. That's all I can think
Patrick,
of.
have you ever caught any food on fire while you're cooking?
Yeah, a pizza.
Sam, name something you refuse to share.
My Diet Cokes.
Patrick, what was your favorite toy growing up?
Tonka truck.
Sam, when you refill the toilet paper in the restroom, does the roll go over or come under?
Oh, I'm definitely an under. I like the under.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I like to watch the roll burn.
Savage.
I do that just to bother. I do that just to bother people.
Writing my cut list for the team.
With the no trade clause, though.
Yeah.
Patrick, what is the most beautiful place you've ever been to?
Oh, Iceland.
Sam, would you rather sweat melted cheese or have snakes for hair?
Give me the cheese. Free food.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick, if you could play in the Olympics in any sport, if I could magically make you good enough to play in a sport in the Olympics, what would it be?
Curling.
Sam, what is your favorite smell?
Pine trees.
All right, here comes the last question. It's the same one for both of you. We're going to start with Patrick. What is your Mount Rushmore of candy bars?
Oh, Twix, Kit Kat. Oh, Milky Way, and Three Musketeers.
Three
Sam.
Musketeers is crazy.
Strong
Milky Way
market.
Midnight. Milky Way Midnight, the correct version. We will go with the Twix, Almond Joy, and give me the Kit Kat.
You can't say the exact same thing I did.
What are you talking about?
That's an exceptional Mount Rushmore of candy bars. However, Sam, when you said lager, you lost it. Winner of
Oh no! Come on.
winner of giving you the old pepper is the mayor, Patrick Murphy.
Yes.
Hey, thank you for go ahead and dealing with some of our silliness here, guys. But Patrick and Sam, we want to thank you for being on the show so much. A lot of people love to hear about vintage baseball out in Arizona. It's always the state that brings in just about our biggest downloads. So continued success out there in Arizona, and so much appreciate you coming on the show, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely, it was a blast.
Cougar, anything you'd like to say before you have to sign off?
What a great way to spend a Monday. We had I'm still licking my wounds. I was at the Ford Field watch party to watch a great first half between the Lions and the 49ers. And then the second half happened. So I needed something to brighten my day and my week and my life. And thank you, gentlemen, for providing that for me.
The key is to root for a football team that has no chance.
Yeah, go
and
Cardinals.
You never have to feel those emotional. Yeah, go Dolphins.
Yeah.
All right, so there it is, episode 1, season 5. For the gentleman from the Higley Haymakers, out by Jody Arias's old place.
I'm to Google
that, everybody, if you don't know who I'm talking about. And don't forget on Netflix to check out Tacoma FD. It's a fun show. Don't watch it with your kids. That's my recommendation this week. You guys go out there and start getting ready for some baseball, or in Arizona, get ready for that second half. Take care, everybody.